Alright, YouTube, welcome back to the Seth Cross YouTube channel, and this is another episode of Commander Craft, where we get together with twitch.tv/thesethcross at around 8 o'clock on Saturday nights, and we make a deck. We just pick a commander, we talk about it in the chat, and we use resources like EDHREC and Scryfall to put the list together of 100 cards. However, the only switch up with this is that I cannot go straight to the EDHREC page for the commander and just get the 100 cards right off of there. That's nothing wrong with that, but for the sake of trying to find something a little bit more interesting or do something a little bit more interesting, I think that's not quite as fun. So I can use EDHREC, I can go to the page of the colors, I can, if there's a strategy, like we're gonna probably see artifacts here for this one, I can go to an artifact page or something like that, and I can drill down things in Scryfall and stuff like that. And then we put the deck together and see what we can do with it. Right, the way I usually do this is I chop it up into parts of about 10 cards each. So from 1 to 12 cards, then 12 to 22, 22 to 23, and explain why we're putting those 10 cards in for you guys. And, you know, me and Twitch will be talking about, you know, is this a good idea, is that a good idea, etc. On the last 10 cards, so when we've hit 52 and we're going to 62 before we hit in the 38 lands that I always try to do for my decks, then I will go to the EDHREC page and we'll see if we missed anything, see if there's any like big time strats or like a card that we just didn't think of or something like that, and we'll look at it there. Of course, if you go on to like this video, make sure you do leave a like on the video. Comment down below what you're looking forward to from Aether Drift. I don't really know what to expect because I'm not really a car guy, so I'm very interested to see what we do. Obviously, we're probably going to have lots of vehicles and stuff like that. And you can join us over on Moxfield and see all the decks for all the Commander Crafts. You can follow me there too. You can see my active decks, you can see my work in progress decks, you can see my retired decks, everything like that. And you can join us on the Discord if you want to be notified when these streams go up, or when we do our Friday night games. I do call for those players off the Discord, so you can join that. All those links will be down in the video description. Also, I used to do live kind of playtesting of the deck. That is now a separate series where I cut the video and I put that up on Patreon. It's called Seth Goes Fishing. So if you want to see how the deck works out, I mean, you can also go to the list and you can playtest it yourself if you want. If you don't want to do the financial support, I 100% understand and agree with that. I just put it out there as just something to give people who are willing to financially support. So if you want that content, you got either got to be a Twitch sub or Patreon. The Patreon link will be down in the video description as well. Sorry, phone did something weird. What are we doing for today's video though? How are we gonna be pod racing around with a new Aether Drift card? This is the Daretti Rocketeer Engineer. This is the Goblin Artificer for a 4 and a red. Its power is equal to the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. Doesn't have to be vehicles, doesn't have to be non-creature, doesn't have to be anything, just an artifact. Whenever it enters or attacks, choose an artifact card in your graveyard, and you may sacrifice an artifact. If you do, return the chosen card to the battlefield. So, things that I'm thinking about, we want to get big costing artifacts into our graveyard, which we can then kind of cheat out when Daretti attacks in order to bring back something that's big and then make his power really big. Because artifacts are going to go in and out of the graveyard, we want some kind of stuff with enter or leaves the battlefield or is destroyed or dies effects. And that's really easy with artifacts, right? Like it's not hard to find those kind of strategies in colorless cards. So I can think of a few things that we would want for the big costing artifacts. Something like a Darksteel Colossus, which I think is like a 12 cost, and there's a couple of like 13, I think there's a 15 cost artifact, right? Isn't like Draco a 15 cost artifact or something like that? I don't know. We're gonna look into things. But yeah, we're gonna do this first cut. Me and Chad are gonna look into what we think will work via probably EDHREC and Scryfall, and we'll be right back. Here we go. We got the first 11 cards. So now we're going to be up to 12, as you can see in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. The reason for that is so that, again, when we do 10, 10, 10 from here on out, we'll eventually get to 62. I always keep 38 lands in my decks. It's just superstitions, just kind of how I need to do it. However, we're going to go through this list of 11 cards right now, so we can explain why we put them in the deck. Gamble. It's a tutor. You can go get any artifact, and even if you do have to discard it, It just goes right into your graveyard. It is a quote-unquote filling the yard card and a card advantage. It's either a filling the yard card or a card advantage card. So it's just good value with the downside actually being an upside here. Ichor Wellspring, artifact that when it enters the battlefield or when it goes to the graveyard, you draw a card. So it's card advantage, and you can basically keep bringing it back and forth as you see fit if you need more cards as you're attacking with Daretti. Mishra, Excavation Prodigy, is another card that is card advantage, filling the yard, and ramp, because haste 1 and tap it, discard a card to draw a card. So there you go, there's your filling the yard and your card advantage. And whenever you discard one or more artifact cards, add 2 red mana. This ability triggers only once each turn. We're not super worried about the once each turn. We're not trying to do tap on tap strategies. That 2 extra mana, it's 2 mana to cast, whatever it is that we need to cast in the turn. Solemn Simulacrum is just going to be a really good card for this deck because, again, artifacts going in and out of your graveyard. So cast them or bring them back and you get land, then you need to bring something bigger back. So you sacrifice Solemn, then you get to draw the card. It's just good value, right? All good things. Speaking of good value, Clan Ironworks. If we need to fill the yard with our artifacts, the best way to do it is by getting mana back. Did I not put it as a ramp card? I did. Okay, cool. I didn't see it in ramp for a second. I thought it Clan Ironworks under ramp said something else. But just absolutely good for artifact decks. If we're doing tokens or anything like that, they can just become more mana and stuff like that. Perforos, Bronze Blooded. The haste is nice, however, comma space, we're really having here for that like sneak attack style effect. It's 2 in a red. You may put a red creature card or an artifact creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So you get to put one of your big artifact creatures down, then it gets sacrificed in the graveyard. So now the next time you need to bring something back with Daretti, or even one of your value engineer, like you can sneak attack in a Solemn or whatever, it's fine. Because then you'll get the land and the draw on the same turn with just a 3 mana instead of 4 mana, and then trying to figure out a way to kill Solemn. Getting into some of the what we called high cost rocks. This is the cards that are going to cost a lot, which Daretti wants to bring back so that they're on the battlefield, so that he's really big. Ancient Stone Idol. This is a 10 cost card. It does have flash and trample, and it's a 12/12. These are all good things. You can still bring it back and try to attack with it and everything like that. Ultimately, though, I do like this one for the big cost and the fact that it gives you a token when it dies. That way you have something that you can bring this back by sacrificing it the next turn. You sacrifice the token that it makes and you can bring it back, and you can keep doing that. I think that's kind of cool. Excalibur, Sword of Eden, is just a massive card for Daretti. You want this onto the battlefield so that you can attach it to Daretti, give him that vigilance. It itself is a 12 cost, so Daretti's base power becomes 12, and then it gives plus 10 plus 0. Holy smokes. That's insane. That's plus 22 plus 0. And vigilance. I tell y'all all the time, vigilance is really good. Why aren't you listening? No, I'm just kidding. Portal of Phyrexia is the next one. I put this one also in interaction. It's not like targeted removal, but Portal of Phyrexia is a 9 cost artifact. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent has to sacrifice 3 creatures. Depending on your meta and depending on the board states, a lot of times that's going to be almost a one-sided board wipe. So that, that's where the interaction part comes from. At the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It's a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. So it's a little bit of recursion in the sense of like you can steal it from anything, or you could bring your own stuff back. I mean, you could get your Ancient Stone Idol or your Triplicate Titan back, depending on what's in your graveyard. Triplicate Titan is a 9 cost creature. It has flying, vigilance, and trample, so it's a really good creature to just stick around. However, when it dies, you get 3 different tokens. You get 1 with flying, a 3/3. You get 1 with vigilance, also a 3/3, and 1 with trample, also a 3/3. All golems. So this is again like you can kind of, it's like make your own army over time kind of thing. So you sacrifice the Titan, you lose that 9 power, but then you get 3 tokens, and then you sacrifice, let's say the trample one. Let's say like the flying and the vigilance the most. Then you get to bring back the 9/9. Then you can sacrifice it. Blah 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 blah. And like if you have your Clan Ironworks, it just becomes a huge like cycle of value, which y'all know I absolutely love cycles of value. That's my jam. And then the last card that we added for right now is Mycosynth Wellspring. Similar to Ichor Wellspring, Mycosynth is just you get to search for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it in your hand, shuffle. It's not as good of ramp as like getting it out onto the battlefield, but it does make sure that you're always going to be hitting your land drops, which is just really important in colors that don't have straight to the field style ways of tutoring out lands. And again, it's just something that you can sacrifice in order to get something bigger back. So that's the first 11 cards. For the next 10, I do want to focus a little bit more on some of the interaction and then our rampant card advantage. I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to cover our 3 basics a little bit. So that'll be 10 more cards, and we'll be right back. Alright, YouTube, we are back. This was so quick. We did these 10 cards in like 5 minutes. Chat was like throwing cards at me, and I was like, are you guys on the EDHREC page? Because that's not the point. The point of me not being on the EDHREC page isn't so that you go and do it. So we're going to go down the list of these 10 new cards. We're already playing with a Daretti. We might as well play with another Daretti. This is Daretti Scrap Savant, the original Planeswalker one that could be a commander, which they all should be commanders. All Planeswalkers should be commanders. We are mainly wanting this for, I think, the +2 ability. Discard up to 2 cards and draw that many cards. It's just card advantage. You can put things into your graveyard as you are doing the discard. You could be discarding your artifacts that you want to bring back, so that Daretti can be huge, blah, blah, blah. The -2 ability is another way of pre-combat, like being able to swap things in. So that's also added value, but again, I think most times it's going to be the +2 we want. If we get to the -10, cool. If not, I never put a Planeswalker in a deck and assume I'm going to get the ultimate. That's just not realistic to think that it's going to happen consistently, unless you're doing like a doubling season style deck where like it is obvious. Next card, this is a pet card of mine. I put this in here. I wanted this one in here. I really want to actually make a deck with this. This is Ferret, Enterprising Salvager. Whenever a non-token artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you get a scrap, which is a little colorful or colorless artifact token. For 1 in red, sacrifice an artifact to choose one. You can put a counter on Ferret and give it menace. You can go to creature, or you can discard and then draw a card. I like this because you can sacrifice any artifact. Doesn't have to be the scrap. But I just like it as a little engine piece of getting a token, sacrificing maybe that token, this piece of scrap in order to bring back, in order to discard and draw, maybe make your commander bigger. There's ways of synergizing with artifacts and permanents going to the graveyard. I think it's a cool card. I don't know if it's going to do great in the deck, but we'll find out when we go fishing, which you have to be a Patreon or a Twitch subscriber to see. Goblin Engineer. This is kind of the same thing as Gamble in the sense of you search for an artifact and you just put it right into your graveyard. Boom. Then for a red and tap it, you sacrifice an artifact to return an artifact with converted mana cost or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. The fact that you can find any artifact that doesn't have to be a 3 or less mana value one is also really important, because you can go find something that then again that Daretti himself is going to bring back. It doesn't have to be like something that is only 3 costing. And then it's just a little bit of additional reduction. Recursion, not reduction. Goblin Welder. This 1 mana 1/1, you can tap to choose target artifact a player controls and target artifact in that player's graveyard. If both targets are still legal as its ability to resolve, that player simultaneously sacrifices the artifact and returns the artifact card to the battlefield. Basically says swap. It's real good. It's Daretti on a tapping stick. Then we have Trash for Treasure. As an additional cost, we do have to sacrifice an artifact, and you can return another artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Again, swap. Just, you see the value pieces here? You see what we're doing? And then, we did put in the Chaos Warp. You shuffle somebody's permanent in, they reveal the top, and if it's permanent, they get it back. Removal in mono red. There will be other things of removal. 10 cards came fast when I'm telling you. I've got whiplash. Prize Statue. This is a kind of a ramp spell. It's kind of a Mycosynth Lotus style effect. Not Lotus. Mycosynth Wellspring style effect. When it enters the battlefield or is put into a graveyard, you make a treasure token. So again, artifact token, which you can then use to sacrifice in order to bring something back with Daretti, or you can use it for treasure. It is treasure. Nimble Right Schematic. This 2 mana artifact. Similar concept, but you are making constructs instead of treasures. Servo schematic, you're making servos instead of constructs. Same thing as well. And then scrap mastery, Jesus, I can speak. I do not want to put this in any particular category. I feel like this could be kind of a game ender depending on how we build the deck. This 5 mana sorcery. Each player exiles all artifacts from their graveyard, artifact cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all artifact they control, and then basically puts the exiled cards onto the battlefield. Boom. So depending on if you have a lot of like enter the battlefield effects or anything like that, or just you're attacking and you need Daretti to be really huge, it might be the game ender right there. So we're up to 22. We have 3 more rounds until we get to the part where we can look at EDHREC and see what other people are building. I have a few ideas for the next 10. We still need more ramp, we still need more card advantage, we still need a hell of a lot of interaction. So we'll be right back. Alright, we have definitely buffed up our card advantage, we've definitely buffed up our interaction, and we've kind of buffed up our ramp a little bit. Not as much, but when you're playing big spells and you're cheating them in with reanimate style effects, meh. For the first one, big score, this is a grave pillar as well as a ramp and token card and draw and card advantage card. You have to sacrifice, or I'm sorry, you have to discard a card in addition to paying its cost. Discard an artifact that you want to bring back. Boom, we did it. You draw 2 cards and then you get the 2 treasure tokens. Combustible Gearhulk's really cool card. When it enters, target opponent may have you draw 3 cards. If that player doesn't, you mill 3 cards, and then Combustible Gearhulk deals damage to that player equal to the total mana value of those cards. Knowing that our commander wants big mana value rocks, people might be kind of afraid to take that damage, and they might just let you draw the card instead. D-Man Dancers is a similar to Big Score and Unexpected Windfall, except that you don't get the treasures. They're both instant speed though. So yeah, you are sacrificing an artifact or discarding a card. So you could do one or the other, and then you draw 2 cards. Faithless Looting, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards with flashback. Get cards in hand, put cards in graveyard. Do thing that you want to do. Unexpected Windfall is another version of Big Score. It's just 2 red instead of 3 red. Same thing, discard a card, tap, create 2 treasure tokens, and draw 2 cards. Then we have down here on our high costed rocks. This one was set earlier and I just forgot to put it in, but in 8 mana, 8/8 trample, whenever you cast a spell and whenever it attacks, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. So it is also interaction. This is Cityscape Leveler. So we could be bringing this back. It's also got Unearth on its own. I don't know if we'd want to unearth it because don't unearth cards exile at the end or whatever. But yeah, either way, flexibility options. In our interaction package, we have our board wipe. All is Dust. It is an Eldrazi Pipal, or Kindred, I'm sorry, sorcery. And each player sacrifices all permanents they control that are 1 or more colors. We will have to sacrifice Daretti. That is definitely a thing. However, common space, I think that's okay if we have a lot of our big artifacts. Duplicant will allow you to exile a non-token creature, and you even get to basically have Duplicant be a copy of it. Kinda, sorta. In terms of like pound copies. Like it doesn't get its abilities, but you get like Duplicant becomes bigger based on the creature that you give her. Meteor Golem, whenever it enters, destroy target non-land permanent and opponent controls. Again, put it in the graveyard, bring it back, put it in the graveyard, put it back, and you'll be blowing up stuff all the time. Unstable Obelisk, this is also a ramp spell. I had this in my Barakos deck tech. It was Rakdos colored black and red. I didn't have a lot of ways to deal with enchantments, so that is one of the reasons why I like stuff like this. The 7 mana is a lot, but it's still just a 3 mana rock. And in this deck it's repeatable, so might not be great, but I think it's okay. I think it's good enough to be in the deck. If all you do is get mana out of it every turn, I think that's also fine. If with all the other removal things that you have, so. Alright, so I do feel a little bit more confident in our card advantage, definitely. Our ramp a little bit less. We do need a few things. We'll probably have things of reducing cost. I haven't put Soul Ring in it yet, etc. I do also want to get a few things that are going to give Daretti trample or menace or something, so that, or flying, so that we can make sure that Daretti's hitting. Yes, Daretti is an enter the battlefield trigger as well as an attack trigger, but I do think a big part of this is going to be the damage. Get that damage in. So let me look at ways to get that damage in. I'll be right back. Boom! 10 more cards. Some interesting ones this time. I definitely took... So I did the first batch of them, and then chat started throwing in the rest of them, so... that it was interesting the way it all worked out. Scrapwork Mutt. 2 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you can discard a card. If you do, draw a card with Unearth. The Unearth is kind of here and there. You do kind of want to like bring this back and forth a lot of times in order to be getting things into the graveyard a lot. If you don't, for some reason, if that's not an option, Daretti gets removed a lot or whatever, you at least have the option to Unearth that kind of does it on its own. I kind of like that as backup. Trading Post. Mox in the chat did suggest this. I used to really love and be really high on Trading Post because it does do so many things. I have since thought that it is slow, but I think for this deck that it does enough stuff and it interacts well enough to where it does what we need to do. Discarding a card to gain 4 life. The 4 life's not a huge issue, but the discarding a card, putting that big artifact that you're going to bring back, you can do that before combat so that Daretti can attack and bring back the big artifact. Paying 1 life to create a goat token. It makes a token. Daretti can't use the goat to bring something back, but it is just another token, another blocker. You probably won't use that ability nearly as much. You can sacrifice a creature, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. That one you might use the goat for, sacrificing that creature, or you might be sacrificing one of your big creatures. If it's already getting removed, you keep this up and then just get rid of that in order to get something back, and then you can bring back the big creature with Daretti or something else. And then you can sacrifice an artifact to draw a card, so it is card advantage as well. So all kinds of ways of, you know, interaction and doing things. Over here, I put in 4 cards that are going to help Daretti hit, actually, or be even bigger, I guess, for Black Blade Reforged. This just gives you +1/+1 for each land you control, and for legendary creatures, its equip cost is only 3. It's just going to be one of those cards where you put it in Daretti, or on Daretti, and then whatever other big artifacts, it's probably going to make him a lethal threat, but you need to be able to hit, so you have things like Brotherhood Regalia. This is an equipment where it only takes 1 to equip it to a legendary creature, gives Daretti Ward 2, which is really sexy, makes him an assassin, and he is unblockable. He is going to kill somebody if this gets equipped, I bet you. Locks it in Warhammer. This is Trample and Lifelink with a +3/+0 bonus. It's tried and true and still does a lot of work in decks that want the commander to kill somebody. Shadow Spear also gives Trample and Lifelink, but only gives +1/+1. The equip cost is 2, but for 1 generic mana, permanents your opponents control lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. That way, if you do have things that you need to do, like target removal, or like you just are worried about not being able to kill things, this allows you to do that. It's just versatility. We put in Soul Ring. I'm not going to talk about it. It's Soul Ring. Sword of the Animus. It isn't really a power card like the rest of them because it's only that +1/+1 and it's not helping you hit, but it is really good for ramp because you are getting more lands out of your deck into the battlefield, and I just really think that's important for, again, things that don't tutor very well, and basically non-green colors. Then we had 2 cards that I thought were really cool because Daretti's power is an asterisk, so when he is played, he is whatever he is, with enough of these artifacts being high costed. Warstorm Surge. When a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. Maybe it should dome somebody for 12 if you have your Excalibur out. Where the Ancient Shred, this is specifically 5 damage to target creature or player. I believe this is now also just any target, but it's very similar. Daretti just has to have power 5 or more. So Warstorm Surge, a little bit more versatile in the sense of, even if Daretti is a 1/5, because all you have is a Soul Ring out, you'll at least deal that 1 damage. Warstorm Surge, where the Ancient Shred does need to have specifically at least 5 power. Hello, for sitting on me. How are you? Yes, you've stretched it. We'll be right back with 10 more cards. Yeah. We did it! We made it to 52. We almost didn't, though. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I mean, this 10 was harder than the last few 10. I think we're trying to cover things and, you know, make sure that we have enough artifacts, even though we only have 33. We put in Commander Sphere, classic. It's card advantage because I don't always list this as card advantage, but I listed it here because it's repeatable in the sense that we're going to be recurring stuff, and of course it's also ramp. Additionally, card advantage. I love Oblivion. We have 13 cards that create tokens in some way, shape, or form. We assume that we would be able to consistently draw cards with Idol of Oblivion. Mind Stone, similar to Commander's Herald, it's ramp, and it is also going to draw you a card, and then you can bring it back if you need to. Mirror Battlesphere, Battle Ball, it's going to get us tokens. See, getting us tokens. It's also a big artifact, 7 mana, so Daretti could be a 7, and then it also deals some damage on its own and everything like that. Similarly, Rolling Hamsphere, similar concept, +1/+1 for each hamster, and then when it attacks, create hamsters, and then deal damage equal to the number of hamsters. The hamsters are adorable. Threefold Thunderhulk, similar concept, enters the battlefield with 3 counters on it. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, create a number of golems equal to its power, and then sacrifice an artifact and put more counters on it, so you can keep getting more and more tokens as you go. Down under a ramp, there's Curse Mirror, enters the battlefield as a creature. You can have it become another big threat, like a Hamsphere or something like that, so that you're getting double the damage and double the tokens, whatever you want. Up under tokens, Canoptic, Scarab Swarm, is a 1/1 for 4 mana with flying. When it enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard for each artifact or land card exiled this way. Create a 1/1 colorless insect artifact. Creature struggle with flying. So yeah, it's going to be a bunch of flying artifacts and stuff like that. Loyal Apprentice is just consistent 1/1 Thopter every combat, basically, that you have your commander out. And then classic Darksteel Forge. We have a bunch of artifacts we don't want to be blown out by like a Vandal Blast or something like that, or just any other target removal, so let's make them indestructible. Seems like a good idea. So now that we are at the 52 to 62 range, we're going to get to go look at Daretti's EDHREC page, see what other people have put into their list that maybe we've forgotten. We round out our list, and then we'll do the lands, and then we're done. And of course, again, if you're on Patreon or if you're a Twitch subscriber in the Discord, you can see the Seth Goes Fishins where I'm going to play test the deck a little bit. So really quick, let's look at this page and let's see what we missed. I am happy to report that for the most part, we were pretty on point. A lot of the high synergy cards, or the new cards, or the popular cards, whatever they were called from EDHREC from Daretti's page, were cards that we already looked at. As a matter of fact, some of the cards that we did wind up putting in were kind of really just fillers that go in every kind of red deck or something like that. Well, we'll talk about them after we talk about Collector's Vault. Eldraine card, tap 2, tap it, draw a card, then discard a card, and you get a treasure token. So it makes tokens, draws cards, fills the graveyard, and the token is a ramp, means of ramp. Then we come down to our first basic card, Jessica's Will. It's Jessica's Will. Should go in decks that have red in them. I don't know what to tell you. Key to the City. How did we forget Key to the City? It's me! I went through a phase of every commander ever had to be evaluated on whether or not it could run Key to the City. And then I didn't do it. And god damn it. But it's in here now. Down here we have Milliken. It's also a ramp card. Makes a colorless mana, but it also puts a card in the graveyard. So, you know, it's kind of what we want to do. Up here on some of our high costed cards, Cyberman Squadron. I have never seen this card before. This is a 7 mana 5/5 non-legendary artifact creatures you control have Myriad. Doesn't say non-token. So all the artifact tokens we're gonna make are gonna, you attack what? You go bloop, and it's gonna be huge. It's gonna be insane. Insane. Speaking of insane, Michael Sans Golem is a very high costed card, 11, but affinity for artifacts. So the more artifacts you have, the less it costs. And the artifact creature spells you play have affinity for artifacts as well. So helping us play some of these high cost rocks as long as it stays out. Plus it's a higher cost rock itself, so that's pretty cool. Interaction, we added Deflecting Swat. Again, red card. I mean, if you have blue, you don't need a Deflecting Swat. You can just run counterspell and stuff like that. But if you don't, this is a good way of making sure your stuff sticks around. Over here in tokens, we put in a Worm Coil Engine. It's a classic. I hate this printing, but yeah, you just want to make more and more 3/3s with Death Touch or 3/3s with Lifelink, whichever one. Well, I mean, you get both, but whatever you're more excited about. And then Conjurer's Clause, because Daretti isn't enters a battlefield effect, so are a lot of our other artifact creatures. Even if you're Conjurer's Clausing your Solemn every turn, that's still more mana, and that's really cool. And then we hadn't put a boots in here yet. We put Swiftfoot boots in because we do have quite a few equipments, and we therefore want to make sure that we can target our own stuff. So that's it. All the non-lands are done. I'm going to put in the lands really quick. We'll talk about any of the non-basic lands that are super special and why. But then we're going to close this out, and I can play test the deck, and then patrons and Twitch subs can see it when we do a Seth Goes Fishing video. So be right back. Alright. Lands weren't too crazy, to be perfectly honest with you. The curve of this deck is hard to evaluate because of how high costing some of our cards are on purpose. But yeah, we still stuck it at 38. Buried Ruin, you get an artifact back. Fomori Vault basically helps you look at more cards in order to find an find something that you want, and also discarding cards and stuff like that. It's just kind of a cool card. I've actually never seen this one before, so I like this one. Guided Reach, draw, discard, might disrupt other people's hands. Ghost Quarter for other people's, like Urborgs or Cabal Coffers, Davy, etc., etc. Great Furnace is an artifact in and of itself, so you can sacrifice it in Inventor's Fair. Life gain, very little bit of life gain, and then later on it becomes a tutor. Bunch of mountains, Myriad Landscape because it turns one land into two lands, Rogue's Passage, so again that Daretti can hit if we absolutely need to. Scene of the Crime, kind of cool. I pretty much only care about the sacrifice to draw a card thing. It's repeatable because it's an artifact land. I just thought that was neat. Strip Mine again for Davies Cabal Coffers because she knows what she did. Urza's Saga because there's actually two things that you can get. You can get your Soul Ring or you can get the Shadow Spear. I thought that was cool. And then just getting the construct with I definitely would want to get the construct, the two constructs with this, just so that you have more artifacts on the battlefield for the couple things with affinity or what have you. And then the War Room, because pay life equal to the number of colors in your commander's color identity, so 1, and draw a card. So again, just super good, and then a whole bunch of mountains. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I will make sure that the link to this deck list from my Mox field is in the video description. Remember, if you think the list was good, you have to tell me. That's the rules. You have to leave a comment. I'd also appreciate if you left a like on the video and subscribe because we are trying to hit 500 by the end of 2025. That'd be awesome. If you want to be here live, twitch.tv/TheSethCross on 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday nights for Commander Craft, and also when I do the Goes Fishing playtesting right after. And then you can follow me over on Blue Sky, and you can go and support the Patreon if you want. Until next time, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this deck. It does seem like it's pretty cool, but we're about to find out if it's really cool. For patrons and subs only. See you next time. Peace.